What's going on, Bench Rovers? Nico Bryan here from the far end of the bench podcast, episode 211 coming up on your way. This is my center of attention this week. And no, I'm not going to sit here and gloat about how Jimmy's in the last place game and I beat him this week. I'm not going to do that. I decided to leave that for the main show, let Jimmy have his piece because his team really performed very, very bad for him. But I'll let that slide for now. This news and this week, some news came out again about one of the biggest scandals in a sport that I care about a lot. Obviously, for those that listen to the show, that know me well, know that I work in professional lacrosse, know that I played lacrosse since I was a kid, and obviously coached it as well. So lacrosse life has taken over my life, and rightfully so. And one of the biggest black eyes the sport has ever seen, and one of the biggest scandals, not only in the lacrosse world but the sports world in 2000s. For those that don't know, is the Duke lacrosse scandal. Well, 18 years ago, the Duke lacrosse allegations came up, where a set of Duke lacrosse players raped an individual on the Duke campus, and not only did that affect those players' lives, it affected the coaching staff, affected those that like. Well, 18 years later, news came out that all that was a fabricated lie. And the woman, Crystal Magnum, admits that she made it all up. Obviously, it's for those that have all fallen in a circumstance where they unfortunately this happened to them. It's important to cover that. It's important to protect them. But when you have situations like this where we ruin not only athletes' lives but also ruin many others in the sports lives. It's important to highlight it. It's important to talk about it because growing up playing lacrosse, we were labeled as the jackasses of the sports world, the idiots, the assholes, and everything. And that's just the lacrosse team that came with it. And a lot has to do with this Duke lacrosse scandal. Well, now 18 years later, ever since the news came out and information came out that it was a fabricated lie and that those individuals were seen to be not guilty, and everything is turned in the right direction. It's important to highlight stuff like that too. So I hope that those individual Duke lacrosse players and are able to get their own peace and obviously get to move forward with their lives now. 18 years after this horrible allegations came out, and I think it's important for us to highlight these type of things, especially since my life is ingested in lacrosse world constantly. So I'm very, very happy to see that this is being treated the way it is, and I think it's important to continue talking about these things because it will. So without further ado, episode 211 coming up. We got a lot to talk about. No college football till Thursday. Don't worry, we got the live show coming up Thursday, but we got a lot of other sports to talk about. So let's jump into the show.
If you don't stay down and you never quit, come on over here and sit on the far end of the bench.
Victory! 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 It's a Victory Monday! I totally missed it for a second, but it is a Victory Monday. One of them we saw in person. Victory for the justice system. Sometimes it takes a while for things to work out, but I think that you're correct. That's a poignant subject because if we're going to harp on it and give it the attention that it deserves, it also needs to be brought attention to when it's used in the incorrect way so that we can help identify that. I feel like that's going to be the biggest thing that kind of comes out of this entire thing. Episode 211, we're giving it to you a little bit early this week. We will be back again. Jeremy will be joining us. Dom will be joining us. We will all have brackets, print out paper brackets for the first ever 12-team college football playoff. So we're leaving a lot of that until Thursday. We're going to talk a little Army-Navy. We'll talk about the NFL. Those are the real big things that we need to talk about. We'll talk about Travis Hunter, the alien, winning the Heisman, and then we'll obviously finish it up with our normal segments. So it'll be a little bit quicker. We've been putting out a lot of content, so it doesn't really make a difference. There'll be a lot of content that comes from this. There's going to be a lot of content that comes from Thursday. This is our 5th annual college football postseason show. So if you have not watched the previous 4, they're a little bit long. Not going to lie about that.
It will not be 4 hours. I will guarantee
this one will be short, to the point, concise.
Yeah, I'll make it very, very clear. I do not give a fuck about the Mayo fucking chicken and rice bowl, okay? I do not give a fuck about the Cheez-It bowl. I do not give a fuck about some of these other bowl. Jimmy does, and frankly, Jimmy might write about some of these other bowl games. He definitely will cover all these bowl games live on our Twitter or on our Instagram, and you'll have to, if you want to see Jimmy's thoughts on all that, you can follow us on there. Great thing thing if you care about the other games. But I'm sorry, I don't. So I'm not going to sit here and
We're
act like
adding in one bowl game. We're adding in the Alamo Bowl because that will be the last time we see Shador, Travis Hunter, and
you gotta
Shiloh
remember the
Sanders.
Alamo. That's what you gotta do. You gotta remember the Alamo.
Remember the Alamo. I'm the history teacher in me really appreciates the fact that you said that. Like Nico said, follow at FEOTB Pod, subscribe, leave comments. We had a bunch of people chiming in our Ohio State video that we put out a couple weeks ago, and it is hilarious because they don't realize I have no stake in this fight. I'm trolling everybody saying go Blue back. Oh yeah, well enjoy your invitation to the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Go Blue, whatever. It's like that hurts my feelings so much.
That
oh my
hurts
god!
So much, yeah. They play the world's smallest violin.
It's not even. I mean, I just send them back a kissy face and move on. Thank you very much. One of them was like, nice check for engagement. I was like, are you not engaging with the video right now? Like you're helping us. You're getting. There's over 300 views on that video now. Thank you very much for the comment and putting it back out in people's feed. Moron. I don't know what else to say in that situation. Anything else that we need to touch on for? I mean, I know the lacrosse that is a stigma. I feel like the PLL is doing a decent job of trying to get rid of that, though. They do a lot of work in the community and making it like a true, legitimate professional league. I feel like that was the issue for a long time. I know that MLL was big and it was professional, but it seemed very similar. Like in my eyes, I put it on the same level as like the X Games, where those are the weirdos that are playing lacrosse on the weekends and then they're working the day job and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like the PLL is doing a decent job of cleaning things up and cleaning up the image.
Absolutely. And like I said, this obviously playing the sport since I was little, this is always something that just always is throwing the stigma that, oh, you're a lacrosse player. I've literally, and this is weird to say this now, I've been on dates where you said you play lacrosse. Like I'm not. I wish I was lying when I said that. I was like, "Aren't you guys a bunch of assholes?" And this other thing, I was like, "Well, I also play football and basketball, and obviously I've been across around my life, but I'm not that much of an asshole." And that kind of conversation ended there, and I was on to the next day. Like that's just unfortunately that's just the stigma around lacrosse players and the things we are and. Like I said, it's the biggest black eye in the sport. It easily is, and frankly, in a time where lacrosse was just starting to grow good traction with the Powell brothers, with Paul Rabel in his young career, Pinnell young career, everything during this whole saga going down, and now 18 years later, we have obviously the indoor league with Mammoth and the MLL is doing great things, and obviously now with the PLL, like the cross has gotten bigger every single year, and it's gotten better, and I'm just very happy to see my sport has grown even so much more than it already has. And like I said, we haven't talked about this yet, and obviously we'll probably talk about it a lot more next year, next February when I'm in DC for the championship series. But the WLL is a thing, the WNBA version of the PLL, and we have women's sixes going to be in DC, which I will be in attendance for again in February. So I'm very, very, very thrilled about that, and obviously having faces of sport like Ali Mastroianni and Charlotte North and August Pullman and lots of great players in the women's lacrosse as well, and having now they have their own league similar to the WNBA, so similar to women's golf and similar to these others women's sports is growing the game even further. So I could not be more thrilled with how the game of lacrosse has continued to grow. And obviously, like I said, I work in it, I coach it, I played it obviously, and it's very, very warming to me and heartwarming to me to see my sport grow like this because, like I said, it's not Major 4. It's not a Major 5. We're probably the 6th or 7th sport after soccer in the U.S.
You're speaking to my heart right now. You know exactly what you keep going. You know
exactly
what I'm
like we're not that, but like we continue to grow and we continue to break new grounds in the sporting world, and it's going to only continue to get hotter and hotter. And I'm so damn excited and so damn thrilled to continue to be a part of it.
The women's thing is cool. Obviously, my sport that's similar to your lacrosse is wrestling, where it's something I did. It was way off-season sport. I love it, and I still coach it, and I'm working with a high school, and we just added a high school girls team, which that started to pop up more and more around CHSA. And the only thing that I can mention, if you're in a situation where you're considering, should we add the girls sport? Are people going to play? There's 100%. There is one scenario that you can put out there that makes sure 100% of girls don't play, and that's if you don't have the sport. If you create the sport, at some point down the line, people are going to see them walking around the halls. They're going to see them in competition, and you're going to actually get some more buy-in, and I'm seeing it trickle down to the middle school level from the high school team. So I'm just going to put that out there again. If you're in a situation where you're considering, should we add the girls sport, add the girls sport, because they will get there. They will grow it. Trust me, coaching girls is different. It's very different. They listen a lot better than boys do. And we do a lot of credit when the boys tend to like take your successes. It's supposed to be our success. I would do a lot of work with you. It's our success. You have to win the match, but I put in a lot of work in practice. The boys kind of, it's my success. The girls are like, you did so well. You did such a good job putting in the corner. I'm like, yeah, thank you. You won the match, so it's up to you. Girls, women's lacrosse. It's also cool for I'm thinking about the Olympic cycle too. This is just going to get more people invested in that sixes game that we're going to see in the next Olympic cycle. So that's huge news. Let's talk about some other huge news. It's unfortunate. We're going to bring this topic up. We'll talk about the game, and then I'm going to bring up a conversation that I heard on another show that I like to listen to, and I want to get your thoughts on it. Saturday was the Army-Navy rivalry game. The Commander-in-Chief Trophy was on the line for the first time in 8 seasons, where the two teams had both beaten Air Force, and this was the winner decided who takes home the trophy. Army gets upset, coming in as the 22 ranked team in the country after winning the American Conference. They get absolutely. It was. I know that you said you didn't watch the game. I didn't watch the game live. We had it recorded on YouTube TV, so we watched it back later because my dad and I are kind of psycho like that. We watched the Heisman ceremony and then got the college football bug, and we're like, hey. Did you watch the Army-Navy game? No, I didn't. I was at the tournament. So, okay, let's throw it on. We watched the entire thing from start to finish. It's the best thing every year. They said it again, but everybody playing on that Saturday is willing to die for everybody that's watching. This is their one shot of fame. The cadet exchange at the beginning is glorious. They have the message written on the back of their jacket when they spend the year at the opposing academy. It's really great that they have their day in the sun. Except for this year, they really didn't have their day in the sun because there were bowl games on. There was D1 AA playoffs going on. The transfer portal also opened up on Saturday. So as Army-Navy was being played, we get news that in Happy Valley, Bo Permula, their stud backup quarterback that's a little bit more of the athletic guy behind Aller, he has to enter into the transfer portal. By the way, Penn State opens up the playoff round in the next 7 days, and you have your backup quarterback that's been with you all season having to enter into the transfer portal. What used to be a beautiful day in college football where it was only these two teams and it was their moment in the sun that they'll never get again is now scrunched, and it's so tight. Everything is so out of whack. I mean, what were your thoughts? I know that you said you didn't watch the game, but seeing that upset score, it's rivalries in college football. That's why it's beautiful. That's why.
I was one of the people 4 or 5 weeks ago that was saying, "Give me a way for Army to get in." Right? I was the guy to be like, "How can I get Army in the playoff? Like, what are the scenarios? Like, what has to happen to sneak a ranked Army in the playoff?" And unfortunately, what this game showed me was that Army had no right playing in the playoff, and that they beat everyone on the schedule, and they obviously beat some bad teams. But the Notre Dame game showed me that unfortunately they're not as good a matchup as well against the other teams. The Navy game even showed me further that Navy and Army just are that good, and frankly are good in terms of the rest of the conference. Comes nationally, not so much. That's a little bit different. But this game doesn't really. Who the fuck cares about? Are they the best team in the country when it comes to this game? Right? It is two people that fight together. Fight together when the country needs it, but go against one another in a rivalry that's deep in hatred, but deep in love at the same time. And this game is, like I said, so damn special. And it's unfortunate that obviously more games are being on it. I think it's unfortunate that the Heisman Trophy is also on the ceremonies on the same day. I honestly don't remember the past ones, but I feel like that has never been this thing. But now it is a thing.
It's very tight because the way the playoff schedule works out and the fact that you have to put this game in at the end of the season. So what I heard earlier today, and I'll give credit where credit's due, Joe Klatt, who is he's a very respected voice in college football because he is the lead college football analyst on Fox. And he's the voice of Big Noon Kickoff. He's the color commentator, went to CU. So I obviously have, he grew up in Arvada, went to Pomona High School. Like that's Nico and I have a lot of experience with Pomona High School and playing against his dad specifically because he was the coach of Pomona for 30 plus years. Joel Klatt made the suggestion, because of, think about the other week that you really don't pay attention to college football. Because I'm speaking to you, the casual fan, because this game, I feel like the true tried tradition of this game, having it be played after everybody else, it's the end of the season, it's the culmination. It's a very cool experience, and this kind of felt like a championship almost of service academies. But the other weekend that casuals don't pay attention to college football is week 0. The only reason a lot of people paid attention to week 0 football this year is because they had the game over in Ireland. Georgia Tech ended up winning, and Florida State ended up being like the worst
Pat
team.
McAfee was hammered on national television. That's literally the biggest story that came out of that week.
He was drinking Guinness in Ireland with Seamus. Yeah, he was going to be hammered. What, you thought that you were going to keep Pat McAfee under control on a trip to Ireland?
Absolutely not. That was a
hell no. So Joel Klatt is suggesting that you move this game to week 0. You give it now move everything else out of week 0. There is no other. You can't schedule anything. It's a bye week for the rest of Division I college football. They get their one moment in the sun. You can still have all the pageantry. You get everybody in attendance. You get Roger Goodell because it's the preseason of the NFL and everything like that. Have it be played early, and then you have the playoffs start the weekend after the conference championship. So instead of having this extended period of waiting where it pushes the window into the transfer portal and it pushes all of these teams back, I feel bad because there's guys that are on teams right now that should probably be looking for other opportunities because they're not going to get playing time at the school that they're at. I think about last season in the bowl season when they force McCord out at Ohio State and he's left with nothing else other than Syracuse. He ends up making the best out of it. It just feels like to me, if we want to give these guys their one moment in prime time and still keep the integrity, it's hard to keep the same schedule when you're changing literally everything about college football.
And I'm not going to go into this because we can go into this a lot more Thursday, but when you add more teams to the playoff, it's going to push it more into this game. So there's going to need to be some changes to it. I like the idea of week 0. I don't know if that's I don't think look, frankly, week 0 is such a weird spot. I think less people would know about it in week 0, just from my understanding, because I get surprised when the first week of the NFL preseason comes up. I think a lot of people get surprised when the first week college football comes up. Oh shit, there's football in this week. It's it just comes out of you, and
you don't have it marked on your calendar from the. I already have the schedule backed out for next season.
The thing where I think alter all these, and I think that could make a lot more sense, is moving the playoff a little bit further back, because you look obviously the playoff games start this weekend, and this next week is Christmas time, right?
Do you know the date that they're going to end this year though? Because let's put that into perspective. They start this week.
January 15th, 20th, probably
28th. Yeah, damn near February. Yeah. It goes all the way into conference championship week.
It goes all the way up until obviously the NFL playoffs. So that does change things a little bit, but obviously you still have the New Year's 6th, and I feel like that obviously plays in a factor in helping that a little bit of that timeline. But I don't know, maybe you start a week sooner and everything, and just give it a little bit more time, because I think that there's a lot of football games being played by these teams, and I think. And like I said, I don't want to get into too much because we're going to talk about a lot more Thursday. But I just think that you need to give a little bit more breathing room to some of these games, especially the Army-Navy game, where it means a lot more.
It was a very cool moment, and the tradition at the end where they go over, they sing their alma mater, and you want to be able to sing your alma mater second because the winner always sings second. Navy had to get the monkey off their back because Army, they dominated a majority of our lifetime. It was always Navy beating Army. Whether they were close games, but it was always going to be that outcome. And Navy this year, as the underdog, just out-physicaled them. That was really it. They had a lot of talk. So the Army offensive line won the award, the Joe Moore Award, for the best offensive line unit. And that's all that was talked about. And the Navy defensive line, everybody was fired up. That's the best part about this game. If you like, and I'm surprised that you didn't watch more of this, because if you like fullbacks, if you like dives, if you like option football, if you like guys smacking the shit out of each other, you're going to be on the same team in 6 months. Ease up. He's not going to forget about that. He's not going to forget about it. His mom's not going to forget about it. You should back off here. But we'll talk a little bit more about this game. It's going to come up in our segments. We'll talk a lot more college football coming up on Thursday. Last thing to hit on for college football, we got to mention it. I'm not going to really, we'll save a lot of majority for the majority of whether or not he should have won the award for Thursday. But just speaking on it and speaking about the person that did win, I put it out on our Twitter account, and I'm sure that you echoed that sentiment. I have yet to see a more humble, yet objectively great athlete of his level be able to take a moment that is supposed to be totally dedicated about him and put it back to his family, put it back to his teammates, put it back to the coach that got him in this situation out of this long career where you go from the SWAC into the Pac-12/Big 12 with CU. You have the season that you do. You are the greatest two-way player that the sport has ever seen. And at this point, we might as well try out two ways in the NFL and see if it's able to work. But man, this season, what he did for that program, and I don't know if it's going to stay. It might. I'm not totally tied to the fact that Deion's going to be a lifer in CU, but what they did in the very short time here, I was trying to say this last night with Terrell too. There's not much better that could have been done for this program. CU is nationally recognized now. It is a brand that you can see all over college football. And Saturday night was a culmination. If we weren't going to make the playoff, this was the next best thing to happen.
I mean, I've been calling for his Heisman Trophy since fucking week 3. Or was it week 4 even? Like I had the center of attention where I said that he deserves it, and frankly, he was the front runner. And what I saw throughout the rest of the year was like, well, his numbers aren't this, that, thing. He is an elite receiver and an elite corner at the same time in a Power 4 conference in college football. He was frankly one win away from having a chance to be in the college football playoff. They beat Kansas. They have a chance to play Arizona State in the Big 12 championship for a chance to play in the college football playoff. He plays a big tough schedule. He, like I said, he was a guy that was the number 1 career out of the country, and people forget he was committed to Florida State. He took off the Florida State hat at his signing day and said, "I'm joining Shedeur and Deion and Shiloh at Jackson State." And we've never seen that. We had never seen that before in college football, where an athlete of Travis Hunter stature, number 1 recruit in the country, said, "I'm going to an HBCU and go join Deion and company at Jackson State." And what Deion has done is, like, Deion is a guy that obviously played very similar to Travis Hunter. And frankly, like look, I know Shedeur and Shiloh are his sons. Travis Hunter is Deion Sanders in essence. He is that type of player, how he was defensively and offensively. He's that type of talent, that type of humbleness, and he's going to go on to do great things. And look, he is going to be he's going to be the best player coming into this next year's draft. There's zero doubt about that. The only reason why he wouldn't be picked number 1 overall is if a team needs a quarterback. And that's the only reason why. And his talent is just unfreaking believable. And look, this is not taking away from GT at all. GT had a great year. He had a fantastic year. He had one of the greatest years of all time. But frankly, another Aston GT is going to pop up next year. Another Aston GT could pop up next year. I don't think I'll ever see another Travis Hunter, if not for another 10, 15 years.
It'll take some time for him he's going to influence another generation where we see somebody able to do what he's able to do, but it's going to take time.
The last person that ever did that was Champ Bailey, and with Georgia. And look, Champ Bailey, for what he did on both sides of the ball, deserved the Heisman Trophy, and we just wrote that right. And look, this is not taking anything away from Aston GT. He is a worthy Heisman Trophy winner. He probably would have won it last year if he did the exact same thing.
Maybe even next year.
Maybe even next year if he stayed with it. But at the same time, like, it's not Aston GT, but the Mountain West is the Mountain West, right? The Mountain West is the Mountain West, and also, like, it's not. I would not be surprised if we had another guy have those type of numbers next year. I'm sorry. It would be as surprising if another top running back comes out of the draft next year and a guy just goes berserk like that. Yeah. And frankly, in a Power 4 conference, they may win the Heisman. But I guarantee you, in 15, 20 years, I will still be talking about Travis Hunter, and I will still be talking about this and the other thing. Like, I look, the best player in college football, it was easily a 2-man race. Dylan Gabriel and who was the other person? Cam Ward were there just to fucking take pictures, okay?
They were the token quarterbacks.
Exactly. They were the token quarterbacks on teams that obviously Miami had a great year and frankly were good because of Cam Ward. And
Dylan Gabriel may have won it again. If it's a different year where there's not as much talent outside the quarterback position, Dylan Gabriel would have won it because he's the quarterback of the undefeated team. He's a dual threat quarterback and he's left-handed from Hawaii.
Exactly. He's still very good. And like I said, there's no taking away from either of them. But like what GT and what Travis Hunter did this season, there's a reason why it was the closest Heisman Trophy race in the last 15 years. I think 2009 was the last time that it was this close in terms of voting. Because, like I said, depending on where you're in the country, and obviously we live in Colorado and we live in MVP City. And don't worry, we'll talk about that more later. But like we see him every single day playing on the field, and his humbleness and his excitement to play the game of football and how hard he works. And like you can make jokes about snap count this, snap count that. Frankly, there is not a team in the country, including every single team in the playoff, that wouldn't want Travis Hunter on their defense, guarding up the opposing number one, and at the same time being the guy to go to on offense. There is not a single team in playoff where he wouldn't do that for them. And Ashton GT, as good as he is, I don't know if I'd trust him that much against a really, really good defense like a Georgia defense or a Penn State defense like that in the Power Five. So, look, like I said, it's not. I'm not taking Graham GT. He's going to be a first-round pick, probably a Dallas Cowboy. So, poor man him. But Travis Hunter is an all-world talent, and I think it's very, very rightful that he was able to win this award. And I'm so damn excited that CU now has their second all-time Heisman winner in the state of Colorado and University of Colorado, more specifically, can rally around one of the greatest players of all time to come through our school.
I have to feel like, as the other schools in Colorado, like CSU, having played against Hunter for the last 2 seasons, they have to be relishing this a little bit. They played not terribly against the best player in college football, and I think he's been the best player over the last 2 seasons. He had too many games missed to injury. The team wasn't as successful as they needed to be. They took care of the business that they needed to. I think that it got as close as it did because it was very similar to the MVP races that we see with Jokic. He had this thing sewn up a month left to go in the season. It was icing on the cake. Everything after the Utah game was just a little extra sprinkle of what he's able to do. He's still scoring these touchdowns.
And that Oklahoma State game at the end of the year, which obviously didn't really mean a lot because CU was eliminated from the Big 12 title game, he put on a fucking show. And frankly, I would not be surprised if he put on a show against BYU because I think that Deion has that in mind that if we can beat the snot out of BYU, we can prove that we deserve to be in that Big 12 championship game, and frankly, prove that we could have competed in the college football playoff and competed to be a big time player. And I think like I said, I'm very, very excited to see what he does in the remember the Alamo Bowl and what he's going to do. So, cause he's, like I said, he's a one-on-one talent and like I said, there's a reason why I wanted him to be a Bronco so damn bad, but now we're winning, so it's unfortunate. And unless we trade up, a stupid habit enough. But hopefully he just doesn't get stuck with the fucking Jets. My God, please don't let this man deal with that. But get him to a good situation.
I'm hearing Patriots. I'm hearing
Patriots and I'm hearing Jaguars are the 1-2. And frankly, I don't think either are bad. I think he could play both. I think New England would only use him as a corner. I think that Jacksonville would use him both ways. And I think that could be a better spot for him, frankly.
That's another thing that you should mention with him is that he would have been at any of these other programs that these other players came out.
Literally, he had every single offer that you can name from schools.
They were all just too set in their ways. Wouldn't give him the opportunity to do what he wanted, and Deion knew how to get him. Deion doesn't chase these guys. Deion lets them come to him, and when they say what he wants, Deion can decide whether he can make that happen. And most of the time, he can make that happen. Coach Prime can do a lot. He's like a magic man out here in Colorado. He can basically do whatever anybody says. Let's talk a little bit before we get into the pick'em for this week. It is going to be a little bit shorter of an episode, as I mentioned. Let's look quickly. I know that we didn't pick any of the Monday night games, but might as well give a score update for what's going on with the doubleheader that is taking place. The Vikings down up 10 on the Bears, 13-3, 2:09 left in the third quarter, and the Raiders are doing their best to tank for Shedeur. They're down 12-3 to the Atlanta Falcons, 8:48 left in the third quarter.
Two absolutely hideous football games. The Bears stink. The Vikings obviously clinched a playoff spot with the Green Bay win on Saturday night. So really, they're just playing to not get hurt. And the Falcons, I mean, for the love of God, like 12-3 against a team that's actively tanking. I mean, what are we doing here? Like,
so Kyle Pitts isn't giving me some massive comeback in fantasy, is what you're telling me?
Unfortunately, no.
Shit. Damn it. All right.
I felt bad when I saw the percentage of our fantasy matchup, and going into it, I was like, damn, I have a 70%.
I was done when Gino got hurt. I was totally done. Gino wasn't helping me out, but the fact that Gino was out, Purdy sucked. Purdy was my biggest bust. That was my saving grace for a while at quarterback. And in my other league, I sat Jaden Daniels, and he scored 21 points. So it's just a bad fantasy season all the way around.
Yeah.
I knew that I was a lock.
I'm just hoping you don't get last place.
game. No, I hope so too. I need a new kicker. My kicker got cut.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that my kicker
I
got
didn't want to tell you that until our matchup was over, but I looked at it, I was like, Jimmy's starting a kicker that's literally not playing. And
he
like
got
he has
cut.
Will
I
Lutz on
know.
his bench.
He got
I was like,
freaking
okay.
cut. Damn it. And shit. And yeah, he's the guy
And
that picked up.
maybe they'll resign him because Bucker missed an extra point or a field goal, like a 20-yard chip shot. So maybe he could come back. Who knows?
They need to save some money for other situations. That's another big storyline that we can talk about. Patrick Mahomes goes down, high ankle sprain.
It's December and Patrick Mahomes goes down with an injury to make him feel like the superhero come from behind a kid again. Is the day ending in why, Jimmy?
Well, here's the thing, though. They play 3 games in the next 10 days, so it's not like he's going to be.
Exactly.
They're either shooting him up with something in the locker room, or he's not going to.
Jimmy,
he's not going to be seen in.
There's a 95% chance that Carson Wentz plays against the Denver Broncos the Week 18 game or whatever last game of the season. I'm almost guaranteeing it. It's whatever. I don't know.
Are we talking another ducking situation? Patrick Mahomes doesn't want to possibly lose to the Broncos?
No. I'm not going to go that far. It's entirely two different sides of the story. Unfortunately, I'm not going to go that far.
All right, I went too far. I found the line, ladies and gentlemen. I found the line. Are the Jets going to stick with Aaron Rodgers after yesterday? By the way, Devontae Adams had 145 yards receiving in the second half.
I need him to do this next week again for my fantasy team because I had a bye week and put up 200 points, and I need him to do that again next week for games that don't matter. I don't think the question. I think you misphrased the question. Does Aaron Rodgers want to deal with the Jets next year? It's not if the Jets want to deal with Aaron Rodgers here. We know who has the cards on the table. We know who is the trump card in all this. It's not the Jets are at the mercy of number 8. Plain and simple. It's not the Jets' decision whether they need to move on from him or not. It's Aaron Rodgers' decision. He could wake up tomorrow morning and say, I'm retired. And I don't think any of us would be that surprised. Tell me I'm wrong, because I'm not. He could wake up Tuesday morning, December 17th in 2024, and say, fuck this, I'm done. And would we be that surprised?
Well,
No.
in that situation, I feel like that's a high likelihood because how are they? They're not going to fix themselves. You still have the ownership situation. You now need to find a coach.
I think they draft a quarterback.
And if you draft a quarterback, you're going to just put them into that situation that's proven time and time again that they cannot develop quarterbacks. They can't develop anybody.
But
because look at their defense.
Aaron Rodgers has mentored some guys, obviously, like Jordan Love. He mentored him. He got mentored by Brett Favre. I think there's going to be a quarterback. Like they're not going to get Cam Ward and Travis Hunter, Cam Ward and Shador. Like they're not going to be able to trade up for them at this point because they're winning games at the end of the season.
Beck.
So it's going to be Carson Beck or maybe even Quinn Ewers, frankly, and it could be one of those guys. And if you're the Jets, frankly, let's not forget they drafted a quarterback last year, right? Jordan Travis, a guy that obviously was great in college and great this and the other thing. Maybe they believe in him next year and give him some more reps in the backup position, or maybe they just say screw it and try to get somebody else. I would be very surprised if there isn't a plan B option for Aaron Rodgers next year. Like whether that be going out and trying to get Geno Smith in free agency or Sam Darnold in free agency, if the Vikings and the Seahawks move on from each of them, or trying to do something else. I think there's going to be a plan B option. They have to. But at the same time, they don't.
Jameis Winston?
Jameis Winston also got benched, which fuck the Browns for doing that. But look, they don't hold any of the cards. They hold none of the cards. They traded for this dude's best friend. Frankly, they're going to ask Aaron Rodgers who they want as head coach. And I'd laugh my ass off if it was Nathaniel Hackett. I would laugh my ass off if it was the hash-slinging hacker. Okay, so we'll see what the situation goes into. But the Jets have no fucking room to figure this out. Let's not forget, Jimmy. The Jets were. They weren't in the playoffs, were they? But they were in the sniffing around the playoff position last year with Zach Wilson.
Last year, I thought you were talking about this year. I was like, maybe the first 3 weeks of the season. I think by the time I was in my birthday in Vegas,
with
they were out.
Zach Wilson, this team added Aaron Rodgers and added Devontae Adams to this team with Breece Hall, DeSauce Gardner, Leonard Williams, and company, and got increasingly worse.
Yeah.
Alan
Lazard can't catch a cold. I have better hands than Alan Lazard right now. He had 2 touchdowns that he dropped in the end zone that would have actually pushed them over 40 points that they were able to score. It's just that situation, when you look at their defense, and they've invested heavily on their defensive side of the ball. There's a lot of injuries, but who got the best out of those couple cornerbacks that were picked? One had an interception yesterday, and one has been steadily dropping.
Very, very good. Stingley has been very, very good.
Stingley too, and the guy that we got the year before, PS2. That's who I was going to be.
Sertan, obviously, the year before has been fantastic. Stingley, who's in that same draft as Sauce Gardner, has proved that he's the number one corner.
2 picks
Houston
yesterday.
Tariq Woolen in Seattle has proven that he's a really good young cornerback. Like Sauce Gardner,
Christian Gonzalez is playing solid really well in New England.
I don't think Sauce Gardner is a top 10 corner in football. Like I'm serious. Like right now, like the man has 2 picks in 4 years. The man has been exposed defensively because he has no safeties over top to help him. And so, like, look, Sauce this, Sauce that. Like, he's not even in conversation for top 5. And he's fringe top 10 cornerback right now in football. And so look, I want to make this very, very clear. This is the last time I'm talking about the Jets this year. Unless Aaron Rodgers gets up and retired, because I've spent enough time on this shit organization. But, like, it's I
keep tricking you into it.
I know you are, and I'm going to start denying it because it's damn horse shit that I have to sit here and talk about this team because your brother likes them for some fucking reason. So
Damian Tomlinson, that's the reason.
I am putting my hand up. I am fucking done talking about that shit team until the offseason, okay? Done with them.
All right. Last thing that we'll get to is the Bronco game that we were both in attendance for. Started off rough. It's not a playoff clinching game, but now they look very, very much like they're going to be able to do so. 91% chance. They still play the Bengals, which is a team that they have to beat to get the tiebreaker over the Chargers game this weekend.
These are the two. After this game on Sunday, which we'll get into more about, there's 2 scenarios for the Broncos to make playoffs. Win on Thursday, you're in. That's literally you're confirmed in. You win on Thursday night against the Los Angeles Chargers in a home game, quote unquote. You're in the playoffs. Or you have the Bengals and the Dolphins both lose 1 game and you're in. The Bengals have to lose 1 game and then the Dolphins has to lose 1 game. Obviously, the Dolphins play the 49ers this week and the Bengals play the Browns, which they, for whatever reason, struggle against defensively because their defense is pretty decent. But, like, that's all you need. We are – this team, Jimmy, what was our over-under in wins?
5.5.
5.5. We have the 5th worst quarterback or 6th worst quarterback in this draft. There's only there's
power ranked number 31 at the preseason.
31 preseason. This team was seen as the least talented team in football. That they were going to draft, be a top 5 pick, and they were going to draft a quarterback in Shiloh Sanders or Campbell or Carson Beck next year. That was all the rumors and all the things people saying out there. And Sean Payton, look, I don't think Bo Nix is going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, especially after this past weekend. And I don't give a fuck. I really don't care because I'd take a playoff appearance over that. But there's one man and one award that this team should get, and there's 0-0 denying it. And there's Coach of the Year is fucking Sean Payton. He has coached circles around every single team he has. Two things you need going into the playoffs and wanting to be a football contender. Special teams that doesn't make dumb mistakes and outperforms other teams, and a defense that is solid, sound, plays sound defense, plays smart defense, and plays as a whole unit. And that's exactly what Sean Payton has built. Exactly to a fucking T. And that's a kudos to Vance Joseph and his coach, and obviously Sean Payton and Joe Lombardi and company and his coaching staff. He deserves Coach of the Year because this team was projected to be the worst team in football.
Yeah. And
Jimmy, if you told me, what was it, fucking 3 months ago that the Miami Dolphins, Cincinnati Bengals, Indianapolis Colts, New York Jets were all going to stare down the Broncos and trying to catch them in the playoff race, I'd be like, I'm sorry, what? Aaron Rodgers get injured? Joe Burrow get injured? Did all these guys' injuries happen? No one picked this team to do this, including us. We said, you know what? If we get to hover around 8-9, we'd be happy. This team is 9-5. 9-5. And like I said in the last couple of weeks, the Broncos, if you're a Broncos fan, not fucking enjoy this, go fucking catch a hike. Like get the fuck off this trail. Because this team has, look, let's not be honest with ourselves. It's not out of the realm of possibility this team could be 12-5. It's not out of the realm of possibility because you play, obviously, Thursday night against the Chargers in a home game, quote unquote. I'm going to keep doing that, quote unquote, because there's no fucking.
A lot of people are injured. No J.K. Dobbins, so that running game is going to be a lot worse than the last time you played.
You're going to have Sertan, even though he's injured, back against the Chargers, which he didn't in game 1. The Bengals have not been able to beat good opponents, been able to beat bad opponents.
Bo Nix might throw a million touchdowns in that game. Joe Burrow is going to throw a lot of touchdowns.
And then Week 18, you're more than likely going to be facing Carson Wentz. It is not out of the realm of possibility. The Denver Broncos are 12-5. Like that is a team that was five games under, and people are still crying, Russell Wilson this, Russell Wilson that. If you look at the Broncos cap space going into next year, going into the year after that, we have $57 million in cap space this offseason. And we already signed Garrett Bowles, and that does not go against that. We have $130 million next season. You have another $160 million the following season. Yeah, Russell Wilson's dead cap hit is already on the scene. But because George Payton and Sean Payton have figured out an identity for how you draft these rookies, Nick Bonitas of the world, you get your Zach Allens, John Franklin Myers, and trades and teams on bad teams that were just trying to get rid of players that were middle of the road. Like, this team has done a fantastic job doing with great things with what they can. And look, I still worry about us going to Buffalo in the playoffs. I still worry about us going to Kansas City in the playoffs. Still worry about us going to possibly Baltimore as well. Houston and Pittsburgh, we will scare the shit out of them.
I agree with you.
We will scare the shit out of both teams. Houston is banged up, injured still, and they look shaky. They've looked shaky. And same with Pittsburgh. Both teams look shaky. Like, we are going to give Houston and Pittsburgh a run for their fucking money. If you are one of those two teams, you want to face as banged up Chargers. Like obviously you don't want to face the Ravens, but like there is a real possibility that it's wild thinking about this because it's been 13 years now, 12 years now since the famous Tebow to DT play.
Yeah.
But there's a good chance we have another Pittsburgh versus Denver all-timer wild card game on Sunday night football. Like that is going to be the premier game, I think. And the one that people circle being like, holy shit, the fucking stories you can get out of this between Russell Wilson, between Bo Nix, between Sean Payton, between all this. I think back to that week 2 game, or maybe it was week 3. I can't remember the exact week. Like, we were looking at that game, be like, oh, we got Justin Fields, and our defense was very raw. They were struggling. Defense was struggling. Bo Nix was obviously not the quarterback he has been. And like, we are such a different football team than that week 3 game against, and we barely lost that game. We barely lost that game against Pittsburgh. So I would be chomping at the bits for that possibility. And like I said, this is a team that 5.5 wins, man. We're about to double that. We're about to double that. It's absolutely insane.
You're giving credit to the right person because Sean Payton, sitting in the stands yesterday too. I know that the Cortland Sutton touchdown at the end of the game was awesome to go up. I felt very comfortable in that situation with the 11-point lead. If they kicked the field goal before they got called offsides, I would have been fine with a 14-point lead. You end up with a 17-point lead, and my brother and I decided it was time to go chase the light rail. So, like, I was good with that. But I sat there and I was talking to Dom too. The issue that people are going to have with this is, what we've been talking about the last few weeks. When coaches don't get out of their own way, when their ego is what drives them, they make dumb decisions, they take stupid risks, and they put the ball in bad situations. Bo Nix made a lot of major mistakes in the road to getting the lead back. As soon as they got the lead back, Sean Payton was more than fine running the ball 3 times, punting, and playing defense. And you have to have a coach that is enough of a professional that understands what it takes to win in this league to go into that kind of, not a zone defense, not a prevent defense, but like a shutdown. Hey, we're not going to make any mistakes. We're going to run play action. We're going to run the football. We're going to take time off the clock. And I trust my defense with the way that they've been playing to hold this lead. And if we have to get back into it, we'll get back into it. But for now, I'm not going to be the reason why we're going to make this decision, which is not something that last year happened with Russell Wilson. It's not what happened with Russell Wilson and Hackett 2 years ago. This has not happened since Gary Kubiak with Peyton Manning. They were the kings of this. That last season, Peyton Manning couldn't do anything. Brock Osweiler came in, won games that same way. I'm going to run the football when I have a lead in the fourth quarter. I'm going to toss the ball to C.J. Allen in playoff, basically a playoff situation against New England on Sunday Night Football. We're going to score in overtime. That's how we're going to win these football games.
It's winning football. It's winning football. And look, trusting your defense and trusting your special teams. Marvin Mims is one of the most electric punt returners I've seen. Where
50-yarder yesterday,
orange and blue, where orange and blue was since Eddie Royal, and old Broncos fans know what prime Eddie Royal
same
looked
number
like
two.
Chanting Eddie back there, watching him catch punts and taking them to the house. And like I said, Marvin Mims doesn't really take things to the house, but he sets up this team so well. And in your worst offensive performance game probably this season, outside of maybe that Baltimore game, like, Bo Nix still threw for 3 touchdowns. threw a beautiful ball to Cortland Sutton, a one-on-one, obviously in the end zone. Great ball, obviously easy touchdown catch. Obviously the catch over the middle to the fullback / tight end Nate Atkins, and then obviously the other touchdown throw like to Troutman over the middle to start the game. Like he will make those rookie mistakes. We are learning very quickly that he's still 24 years old and still a rookie quarterback in this league. Yeah, he's played a lot of football. And that graphic on that I watched back and Pat McAfee show talked about before the game or during the game was like they showed the graphic of games played for Bo Nix and Anthony Richardson. Bo Nix and Anthony Richardson had played the same amount of football games in the NFL. They had played the same amount of games in the NFL. And Bo Nix is obviously a rookie, and Anthony Richardson in his second year. And then you look, Bo Nix has played 45, 50 games in college football, and then Anthony Richardson had like 12, like not even that much. And Anthony Richardson's on his like 24th game of playing actual meaningful football, and Bo Nix is on his 70th game of meaningful football, and he will make dumb mistakes, and that's the growing period of getting this team better to be a championship contender again. Is that you have to overcome those if you want to be a Buffalo, be in Kansas City, and go to Super Bowl. That's just how it's going to be. But right now, this is baby steps. these are little baby steps that this team didn't do for 9 fucking years. 9 fucking years. I look at so many situations around the league. Like Cincinnati comes to mind. I look at like Cleveland comes to mind. I look at Washington before, obviously, that they made the coaching and ownership change. Like having an owner that A, believes in the team, A, puts money into the team, and B, believes in a coaching and general manager staff, it goes a long way. And having a coach that implements his own system, I cannot – every single year of the show we've had, I've said this. The Broncos have a losing culture that they need to fucking get rid of. There are guys on this team that built a losing culture, and it's going to be a tough pill to swallow watching them in a different uniform, but it's going to be needed for this team to overcome it. Love Justin Simmons, was part of that problem. Draymond Jones, great player for a long time, part of that problem. Jerry Jeudy, great player, part of that problem. Like you go down the list of guys that
Josie Jewell,
great player, great person in the community, part of that problem. Like those are guys that we have ties to because they did great things for our team, but they were a part of a losing culture. And Sean Payton has brought in new young web players, new young head coaches, or new coaching staff that are hungry to develop young guys and make careers out of themselves. Like I look at like players like Chris Abrams of Durham, the cornerback out of Mizzou that obviously replaced Levi Wallace. He led up one catch for 10 yards, and he was in coverage for 20, 30 plays. He was fantastic, and a guy that has to step up when Riley Moss is out or step up when Pat Surtain is banged up. Like, this defense is full of unknown players that Sean Payton has just molded into Vance Joseph's defense. And his offense, we're seeing the early stages of his offense, right? We are not seeing its full potential. Like when this offense gets, frankly, a reliable number one running back in this draft next year, gets a reliable, electrifying receiver. And Cortland Sutton is a great receiver. He's done great things with this team and been really, really solid. But you get an electrifying receiver in the draft next year or an electrifying tight end that is a game changer for this offense to compare with a good offensive line, a good running back too. This offense can be opened up so much more. That's the thing is like when your offense is playing as poorly as it has been, but your quarterback is making not dumb mistakes, but making rookie mistakes that he can overcome. You have this confidence not only going into this year in the playoffs possibly, but going into next year, going to the year after that, to be like, you know what, like we get pieces here, we get pieces there. This is a team that can put it all together and compete in the AFC. And look, that's what we've been asking for 8 fucking years. So we've been asking for 8 fucking years since 18 retired, and chose and still loves us more. By the way, it's wonderful time being a Broncos fan.
There was a lot of fights that were about to be started over that yesterday.
Don't you worry. Every single Colts fan around us, and more specifically the 2 fucking jackasses who were 2 rows in front of us, who are 49ers fans, by the way, who don't give a fuck about the Colts, who just care that the Broncos lost, cheering that hard. Oh, don't worry. I made sure they let them know who the fuck runs this.
I bet you we both have the same reputation. I was wearing my Tebow jersey, and I had a few in me, so I'll leave it at that.
Oh, Jimmy, don't you worry. My Pat Surtain jersey is undefeated. Like I've worn my Pat.
You chirp. I want to put this out there. I was getting a reputation, and they started calling me Tebow because they saw the jersey that I was wearing. But every time one of their offensive linemen held, you know me. Come on, move your feet. That's the only reason they're going to talk about you.
They can hear me. They can hear me from my seat.
I know they can hear you.
They can hear me.
I wish I was doing the same. I didn't have that much to say about the Panthers. I have a lot to say about the Colts. I called Anthony Richardson Mr. Guaranteed 2 picks, and guess what? Guess what? He did it.
Jimmy, I was yelling at Joe Flacco to start warming up because he was getting tired. I made sure Jonathan Taylor heard me. Don't you worry about that. I made sure he heard my ass. So it's look. It's fun. It's fun wearing orange and blue again. It's fun having a team that plays a style of football that you can be proud of, a style of football that you know that this is going to be something you build upon, that can go a long way to years and years of success, where you're not just one hit wonders. Like this is it's such a fun and great time to be a Bronco fans. Like, look, that's one of the worst games we played all season. We frankly should have been down 27, but you went 31-13.
Yeah.
That is a kudos to your defense. That is a kudos to your special teams. It is a kudos to Bo Nix, and this is a big kudos to the coach of the year and Sean Payton.
Well, let's continue and roll this thing in before we get into all our picks, our pick'em. Updated standings. We both went 5-1 last weekend. We had different games that we lost. Nico's 57-23. I'm 50-30. He has a 7-game lead. I did nothing changed really because we had the same exact record. So I tried, I failed. This is presented by Find the Good Brand. Go to findthegoodbrand.com. Use promo code BENCH, BENCH, and you'll get 10% off at checkout. You can still get gifts for the holidays coming up, hoodies, sweatshirts, hats. They do also a lot of work with mental health. I'm going to say this every time that we talk about them. Find the Good Brand, helping you through the good days, the bad days, the rainy days, the ups and downs, whatever else that stands between you and a smile on your face. They also donate 10% of all their proceeds to Mental Health America. The Broncos and the Chargers. Chargers are 3-point favorites at home. We saw them this past weekend extremely banged up. That running game is not what it needs to be without J.K. Dobbins. Justin Herbert is hurt. So as soon as he gets touched, it's going to be pins and needles whether he's going to be able to play. It's a short week. And Sean Payton, here's the thing that a lot of people might not know. If you're a Bronco fan, I'm sure that you know this. Sean Payton and Bo Nix asked for this game. The NFL came to them and said, hey, could we possibly flex you to Thursday, knowing, and Sean Payton did this strategically. Yeah, it's another game that you have to play on a short week, but you get the mini bye, and then you get this crazy ass. A lot of the teams, like the Chiefs, I mentioned already, they're playing 3 games in 10 days. You get a little bit of extra rest having to play that earlier
this
window.
Is a team that's had the late bye too. Like let's not forget that we had our bye week last week. It's crazy to think about. So this is like I said, you get a little bit more rest before you get into that playoff run, Sean. And like I said, this is a game where you can lock things up, right? This is a game where Sean Payton is telling his guys, you go balls to the fucking wall here. You go balls to the fucking wall here, and you give it your all because. We just had a week and a half, 2-week break after the Monday night game against Cleveland, right? And now you get to play 2 games in 5 days, and you already took care of business number 1, which is beat the Colts, have that tiebreaker, have the 3-game lead over the next team in the wild card. Now you put your statement on the fact that you can be a 10-win football team. You'll be in the playoffs. You're a force to be reckoned with in the playoffs when you go into, as I put quotation around that every single time, Los Angeles, and play a quote-unquote road game. And I'll continue doing that.
You're going to piss that Chargers fan off really bad. That one Chargers fan.
Which one? Like, where are they at again? The only one. That's right. The only one.
Hey, you're going to piss Judge Judy off, okay? And your father works in the legal system, so I don't know if you want her on your ass.
I guess that's fair. But yeah, look, this is such a big game because you don't want to go into Cincinnati 2 weeks from now, because look, Cincinnati is dangerous. Joe Burrow's been very dangerous. You don't want to go into that game being like, "Fuck, we got to win these next 2," because the way things are going. Like you don't want to have that conversation. You want to be like, you know what? If things don't go our way, we're still in. We're still fighting for seeding. The other day thing. You want to go into those last 2 weeks against the Chiefs, against the Bengals, where you're thinking to yourself, okay, we have our spot solidified. Now we just need to see what makes sense for us. Is it Pittsburgh in the first round? Is it Houston in the first round? Is it Baltimore in the first round? Because they could still win the division still. Like where is the best course of action for this Broncos team to try to get in to spot in the playoffs? Because that's what you're fighting for, and that starts with Thursday night football. And look, I go back to that game earlier on in the season when we played the Chargers. didn't have Surtain. Riley Moss was the game. That's the game he got banged up in, and Justin Herbert just fucking exposed the backup.
They did make a comeback in the second half. It was a
They
bad
come back
start.
the
That was
exactly.
probably the flattest that they've started, but the second half was they were in it until the very end.
What I need to see from this team on Thursday night, I think is the biggest focal point is I need a running game that is sustainable because Javonte has done nothing for me. He has done nothing for me. Jaleel is shifty. He can move the ball really well.
He's
He's
way
too small. Estime has had flashes, but really hasn't had a full consistent game either. I need one of those guys to have a statement game because John Harbaugh is going to try to do that on the other side. And I think Sean Payton's telling Bo Nix this too, is like you make mistakes like Will Jordan Humphrey did in the first possession, like that first matchup between these two teams, where you fumble the ball at the 50-yard line, giving Justin Herbert the full field on the first drive. Like it's little things like that where you can't make mistakes against a good coached team. Cough, cough, Kansas City. Cough, cough, LA Chargers now with Jim Harbaugh. So I expect a smart, sound team on Thursday night. Like I said, Bo Nix needs to wash away the mistakes he did and learn from those mistakes he did against the Colts because he's playing a defense that is going to be better in the Chargers and a much more sound defense and a much more sound team in general than the Colts and a team that's not going to fucking make trick plays to go touchdowns the other direction and have their quarterback get tired so they have to have their receiver throw the ball like things like that. Like you're not going to have that face against the Chargers. And the Chargers, obviously the game past week where they lost I forgot who they lost to. They did lose last week. Like they've been on a little bit of a skid, and they've been on a little bit of skid. And if you're able to get them at the right time, get 5 wins in a row, and be able to coast into that Bengals game, into that Chiefs game, where you're solidified.
Chargers got whooped by the Bucs yesterday,
Buccaneers,
40-17.
The Bucs put it on them, and it's a Bucs team that is very, very dangerous too. Man, that's a good football team right now. But if you're able to try to build upon what the Bucs did against them and try to replicate that, things are going to look out and things are going to turn out. So I'm going to ride the Broncos here. I will never pick the Chargers, especially in a, again, quote unquote home game on Thursday Night Football. So give me the Bronx.
I like the defense in this matchup. I think that they're going to expose the injuries that the Chargers do have, and they're not going to be able to be as explosive. And you mentioned it, the sudden changes, the quick turnovers. Outside of this last weekend, it hadn't really been happening too much for the Broncos. It's been shot plays that have been underthrown or stuff like that. So if you can avoid those and think back to the last Thursday Night Football game they had. Yes, it was the NFC South, which turned out to be a really dog barrel division, except for the Buccaneers, which we just mentioned. But the last time they played Thursday Night Football, Javonte Williams got going. They beat the crap out of the Saints. They took care of business against a team that was banged up and actively getting more injuries against them. I think that they're tough enough. They're ready for the situation. And I think the line, both offensive and defensive, because their defensive line is a little bit banged up coming into this matchup, that's going to be the biggest X factor, keeping Bo Nix upright, getting after Justin Herbert, shutting down that terrible run game now that J.K. Dobbins is out, and we'll see where it goes from there. I also do want to shout out Joe Alt. I want to mention him because he's a guy like Penei Sewell coming in and being a really good player early on in his career. Not often that happens at the offensive line position, but we're both on the Broncos for Thursday Night Football. Moving forward, you said that this game is on Saturday night, or is this not one of the Saturday
night matinee?
Saturday night game.
There's two games on Saturday, which also fucking stupid because they do these Saturday night games on literally the day of college football playoffs. So congrats, I guess. I don't. They used to do this on Saturday night because it was the first Saturday that there weren't any college football games, and now that there's bowl games, you have to get rid of this.
It's also D1 AA semifinals, D2 national championship. There's a lot of shit going on.
You need to get rid of these Saturday fucking week 16 games and week 17, week 18.
The players don't want it either. The coaches don't want it. The players don't want it.
It doesn't make sense.
Baltimore's a 6-point favorite at home.
I had to double check because I was like, because there was two games on Saturday. It's Texans, Chiefs, and then it's this matchup. And I was like, wait, that's correct Saturday? And it was. And I was like, interesting. It's not a Christmas Day game, so maybe those are the Christmas Day matchups, and they're like giving them a little bit of a break in between the
I do know that the Steelers will play the Chiefs on Christmas Day. I thought that was the only game that was happening on Christmas Day, though.
So maybe I'm wrong that way, but it's such a weird I don't know, Saturday night thing.
That really screws over the Ravens and the Texans having to play a day early. I mean, yeah, I get it. Maybe at this point, I've heard some players say at this point in the season, you almost rather have the games come really fast because then you get the walkthroughs in practice. You don't have to beat yourself up in the middle of the week anymore, and you have to get yourself ready for the game. And as long as you can get yourself healthy enough to play in the game, you know that those doctors got those magical pills and the syringes in the locker room if it truly comes to that. But I feel like they're maybe ready to just get this one going. This was a strange matchup the last time. In Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh dominates Baltimore. Pittsburgh is coming off of a very terrible loss to Philadelphia. But if you look at the history of those two teams, Pittsburgh never wins when they go into Philadelphia, and they're banged up. And without George Pickens, they have nobody to go against that defense. And even with, I think the secondary picked up another injury with Slay for the Eagles, and the Steelers still weren't able to do anything with it. Looking at this one, since it's the home game and the Ravens do have a chance to tie up the division, and I don't know what it does with tiebreakers if you split the season series, but they got a game back last weekend. Now you get to handle your own business and possibly push yourself away from that wild card spot, because I don't think that they're a team that wants to go on the road. We know that Lamar Jackson struggles to play in the playoffs. You can't tell me that he doesn't want to have at least home field advantage for the first round of the playoffs, and we'll see what happens from there. I think that Baltimore's got this one pretty handedly, because I don't know if Pickens is coming back, but it just seems like that team is running out of steam actively as we speak.
Pittsburgh is hitting their worst start of the season. Obviously, they get shellacked by the Philadelphia Eagles, and they are a team that, like I said, I'd love to play them in playoffs. I don't necessarily want to play Baltimore again, and it would frankly do more justice for the Steelers to win this game in terms of the Broncos having postseason success. But the Ravens are a much better football team, much better sound right now. Pittsburgh is seeing what Russell Wilson does to a team in the year 2024 and making dumb mistakes, and their defense is frankly struggling a little bit. TJ Watt's had been very, very solid still, but their back end is struggling.
He got injured at the end of yesterday too, possibly an ankle sprain.
Exactly. AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts were cooking those DBs, and Philadelphia was kind of able to do whatever they needed to against this defense. So that Pittsburgh defense is getting more holes in it. Baltimore is a better team overall, and I really do think that they'll get the win. And like I said, I want to win this pick 'em, so I'm going to continue being smart about these picks. But obviously, it'd be better for us, I think, if the Pittsburgh won.
Well, speaking of games that would be better for us, we're split on the next one, and I'm going against what I've been saying because it looks like DTR is going to be playing against the Cincinnati Bengals. He might go off, but I feel like if you're playing against DTR, honestly, I don't know. Jameis Winston threw three picks and got benched for Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Dorian Thompson-Robinson comes in to save the day. He throws another interception, so you got 4 total on the day for the Cleveland Browns. I was kind of talking about it. I talk about it a little bit more on Ohio Sports Talk. I'll be on with Jordan. We'll get into the specifics of this game. This is my first time with the Battle of Ohio on that show. But you feel bad for the fans. You can't feel bad for the team because, I mean,
like seriously,
the fans are not the ones who were. Nobody was clamoring to bring in Deshaun Watson.
They're clamoring to upgrade the quarterback after Baker.
Yeah, but nobody was begging them to bring in Deshaun Watson and sign him to a $240 million guaranteed contract. That's the whole crux of this situation. You screwed yourself with the contract that you signed, and then you screwed yourself even worse when you just refused to pull the trigger. I know that it's a lot of money, and it's going to suck for a couple of years, but you're going to be the same product on the field now that you would have been if you cut him.
The Broncos are making the playoffs 1 year after cutting the $50 million cap hit. I understand Cleveland is not. Maybe Cleveland is probably better off right now than we were last year. If I were to put in perspective, like I get Deshaun, like not say money wise, but like team wise. Like you have Myles Garrett, you have Jerry Jeudy, you have a number one receiver, you have a defense that could be very, very good sound. Nick Chubb looks like his career should be done.
He broke his
Unfortunately, broke his foot. Like it's time for Chubb to hang him up. Great career, but it's time to move on from him. And they have some good weapons on the team. And frankly, if you look at the Broncos after the Russ Wilson cut, as opposed to the Browns after the Deshaun Watson cut, if it were to happen, it'd be a much better position, right? It'd be a much better position because a young quarterback walking on the team already has a number one receiver in Jerry Jeudy. They already have a defensive star edge rusher in Myles Garrett. You have a couple of defensive pieces in Denzel Ward and company that could be decent, that could help this defense along the way. You have a good head coach in Stefanski that has made everything out of nothing with that team. You just need to bite the bullet. I'm serious. You have
Every
to.
team needs to start learning this. It's better to move on. Like Belichick had it good where you can move on to a year too early and maybe they have one good season. Like he loses to Lori Malloy after he trades him to Buffalo in week 1. But by the end of the season, they had the money that they needed to make whatever moves. You just got to learn how to bite the bullet and rip the Band-Aid off. These teams don't get better from sitting around in bad situations. My other team kept Marvin Lewis around for 17 years. Knowing what his cap was and knowing what the team was underneath him, and they just wouldn't bite the bullet. There's still seismic aftershocks coming through this game, which I believe is the reason why you're picking. I mean, I know the reason why you're picking against the Bengals because it helps out the Broncos' chances. You go ahead and give your reasoning as to why.
I mean, look, this is a spoiler alert for the last game we're picking too. I threw these 2 big games on here for the reason that obviously we're a Denver show, and then we got to talk about it a little bit more. But like, I don't know. I have to give myself a little bit of hope and thinking that, even if the Broncos fumble back Thursday night and lose to the Chargers, that the Bengals the Browns or the 49ers could help us out a little bit in that aspect and give us a little bit of cushion room where we still are able to clinch and make a lot of season. Yeah, it could come out to a loss. But like I said, we're looking at a situation where you win. Obviously, you're in no matter what. But why? But if you lose to the Chargers, if you lose to the Chargers can not only jump you, then you get into that tiebreaker situation with the Bengals if you lose to them, or that situation where you have to try your hardest against Kansas City last week of the year where it could be bad. Like the Bengals are a hot football team. They score 50 points a fucking game. They still give up 40. You just don't want to get in a fucking shootout next week. And I will continue emphasizing this. Do not get yourself into a shootout next week because you have to. Just take care of business the way you can, and I'm trying to give us a little bit of safety room. And I have games to give up in this pick'em, so that's why I don't give a fuck.
Wow, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. I got
7 games. I'm sorry, Jimmy. I got 7 games. That's all I'm gonna say.
You're picking with your heart. You're not picking with your brain. I know what you're doing. You're picking with your heart.
I've done with my mind quite a lot. I've won 3 out of these 4. There's going to be 3 out of these 4 if I win this pick'em. Frankly, if I win this week, I think if you don't get like 2 or 3 games on me this week, I win. So like I just wanna be able to be safe here for the Broncos and give me a little bit of hope. So I'll take Cleveland and hope that hope that I guess Dorian Thompson-Robinson has a career game. I seriously think Jameis could throw for 500 yards against defense. I do think that could happen, but if they are going with Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I do have my doubts about them winning. But I don't know. I guess I'll just ride Cleveland in hopes that we can just lock up a playoff spot this weekend and not worry about it.
I think the interesting part about this game is no matter what, it's going to be very similar to this Titans matchup. The Bengals were down early against the Titans, but then Will Levis remembered who he was and threw 2 interceptions. And the Browns may do that. And if they're going to get into a game like they got into with the Broncos on Monday Night Football with the Bengals, I think Joe Burrow would welcome that. Like Joe Burrow might throw for 800 yards.
There's a better chance that happens than a 6-9 or 12-9 football game like we had on Thursday Night Football.
God. No, that'll hopefully never happen again. I don't know what the weather's going to be like. Like I said, I'll talk more about the Battle of Ohio. This is an interesting matchup, but a touchdown favorite, and I think that it's warranted because whether it's Jameis or whether it's DTR, they will get interceptions, and the defense will actually get some possessions where they don't give up a touchdown. It's very rare. I mean, Bengals fans, trust me, it can happen. You can have a defensive series without the other team reaching the end zone.
And you can also get a turnover with carrying the ball in the end zone. Cough, cough, Bengals fans. Not John Taylor wasn't the only person to do that this weekend.
Well, yeah, that was rough. We'll talk about Jonathan Taylor's situation a little bit more after we finish up our picks. Moving forward, the Eagles and the Commanders. I believe the Eagles I don't know if they've already locked up their division, but if they win this weekend, I think that is pretty much sewn up for them. They're still chasing the 1 seed, and the Lions losing yesterday to the Bills helps them out quite a bit. 3.5-point favorites at Washington against Jaden Daniels. They've already beat this team once, and with the way that these 2 teams played yesterday, it's weird doing this show on Mondays now because normally we've had a few days to digest everything that happened on Sunday. The the Saints almost came back with Spencer Rattler to beat the Commanders, and the Eagles handled their business against the Steelers, who is another division leader.
And did you see that clock at the end of the game? Maybe it was just the TV clock and the actual.
It was the scoreboard clock in the dome. The dome clock stopped when it shouldn't have stopped with 9 seconds left, and nearly gave the Saints an entire new play.
Something stank over there is all I'm gonna say. That smells a little
That's the
fishy,
same stadium that half the lights went out during that one Super Bowl when Flacco was on the way to dominating to the Super Bowl championship.
And you know where the Super Bowl is at this year.
Same place? Well, I mean, there's voodoo out there in New Orleans. There's voodoo down there in New Orleans.
Yeah. But look, I'm not going to put that loss or that close winner against Washington because I think Jay Daniels has proved that he's probably the best quarterback in the draft class.
21 points left on my bench.
He's been very, very solid this year, and the connection between him and Terry McLaurin, man, that is what a number one receiver does to a guy because Terry McLaurin is. He had kind of a down year, obviously, with Howell last year and really struggled to find a lot of footing being an elite receiver in this league. But now that he has a quarterback that has the arm Jay Daniels has, that has the trust and the connection those two have, the man has 3 games with 2+ touchdowns. There is a match made in heaven for those two guys. And Terry McLaurin is loving his connection with him and thinks he can go a long way. But Philadelphia is one of the best teams in football right now. Philadelphia was it 9 straight, 10 straight now. They've won it. Now. It is. They are on a tear. They are.
And they can beat you running it, throwing it, because 2 weeks ago they couldn't throw the forward pass and they ran all over the team that they beat. And then this past weekend, Saquon's getting bottled up a little bit. Josh Allen's taking over him in the MVP conversation, and Jalen Hurts threw for 292 yards and 2 touchdowns.
The Eagles are saying, what media personalities do we want to fucking prove wrong today? 2 weeks ago, it was that Saquon's not getting enough touches and he fucking ran for 300 yards or whatever it was 2 weeks ago. Last week, it was that A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts don't have a connection, that they're pissed at each other. Jalen Hurts said, hold my beer. And literally in his post-game press conference, you can see him say, is that what y'all wanted to see? First thing he said as he got to the podium, I was like, all right. I mean, he bodies Philly.
Dog.
He bodies Philly, and Sirianni has done a great job with that team. I thought he would have coached him out of himself a job by now, but he's done a great job. And I don't know if he's staging fights on the sideline to fire his team up, because I think that could be a real possibility that's a thing, because his coaches him getting into a scuffle makes no sense for a team that's won 10 straight, but maybe he's trying to get his team fired up. I don't know. I would not be surprised if it came out that was staged at all, is all I'm going to say. But this Eagles team is playing good football. And like I said, it's a oh man, the NFC is really, really good this year. Like I think it's really, really solid.
There's a lot less eliminated teams in the NFC than the AFC this year.
Like you look at the NFC North with Minnesota, Green Bay, and Detroit playing really, really good football. Buccaneers obviously shellacked the Chargers, and then you look at what the NFC East is doing, and the Eagles are easily the hottest team in football. They are picking and choose. Their defense is playing sound football. Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, not because I'm white, I can say DeJean, not DeJean, but like they are playing great defensive football in Philadelphia. They're clicking on all cylinders offensively. They're looking like the team from 2 years ago that made the Super Bowl. Let's not forget, and lost to the Chiefs. So the NFC is getting tighter and tighter. The Eagles are, man, like I said, if Detroit has to go into Philly for the playoffs, man. We saw what they struggled with against Buffalo. This is a similar type of offense.
That was at home
Detroit,
too.
Exactly. If Detroit has to go into Philly, that could be tough. That could be real, real tough in the playoffs.
You don't want to have to make a comeback against Saquon Barkley. He's the best closer in the NFL, whether he has a big day or not. Last game, we're off on this one as well. There's 2 Cherry Creek alumni on the sidelines. Just want to point that out. Shout out to the boys for getting another state championship brought home. Beat Legend a couple weeks ago. That's our one local Denver spot that we're going to bring up. But Mike McDaniel, the Miami Dolphins, struggled against a good team in Houston. Houston got Collins back, and they're such a weird team because they had another guy get just a massive concussion. Guy took the pass over the middle. I can't think of his name, but they have another massive injury, and it just seems like it affects this team to no end at this point. Like Mike McDaniel has to be sitting there on the sidelines like, how many more guys can I possibly have get absolutely just their brains scrambled? And then Tua's not throwing the ball over the middle anymore. My one saving grace, and this is going to be the random gambling stat that I have, if they play against a team with a below 500 record, they look pretty good. And technically, the 49ers, and Brian Johnson now will back me up because there is no bigger hater for the San Francisco 49ers on the internet than Brian Johnson. You can hear his opinions most Sunday nights on Talking the Gridiron. But damn it, the 49ers are below 500. They just had Devondre Campbell walk off the field. Maybe that's going to galvanize the locker room, and they're all going to rally around the fact that the guy's – he's not even getting cut. He's just on a year-long suspension with the team now, so they're not going to let him walk away to any other franchise. I'm going with the Dolphins to beat up shaky 49ers team. This is a game that I'm hoping to get back.
Let me make it very, very clear. I do not claim Mike McDaniel. He went to Smoky Hill High School. Kyle Shanahan went to Cherry Creek. So I will make that very, very clear before I say that. I claim him as a Coloradan, and that two guys who grew up in the same or roughly the same.
He was the ball boy for the Super Bowl champion team. He was Kyle Shanahan's best friend.
Exactly. So two dudes that know each other very, very well. And
it's not his fault his mom couldn't live in the right zip code.
And look, the Dolphins are playing this game in a warm scenario and at home, and San Francisco has got to be the softest team in football. I called it last week. They're the softest team in football. And it proved me correct when one of the linebackers said, "Peace out, I'm out," saying I'm done. You look at it's. I'll talk about Devondre Campbell more here in a moment, but it's such a crazy thing to do for a team that just won or won the NFC last year and was 1 win away from winning the Super Bowl. Right? Like I am begging Tyler McGurk to come back on the show and defend Brock Purdy after this year. I'm serious. I'm begging you. Because he's not the MVP of this team. He's not. He still isn't. It's still Christian McCaffrey. Shanahan needs McCaffrey to be successful. Everyone knows it. It's just the formula that works out that way. Look at Mike and Ed. Okay, it just works that way. And Kyle needs Christian to be successful. And man, like this is a talented roster for the San Francisco 49ers. Deebo Samuel was saying, "I just need to get the ball more." Okay, you got the ball more, and then what happened?
He scored 4 points.
Scored 4 points and dropped a wide open slant where he could have housed it.
But he just needs to get more consistently involved in the game plan. He hasn't seen that many passes over the last few weeks. He just can't keep – you can't expect a professional receiver to catch the ball.
This team has so many damn prima donnas. If I was George Kittle, I'd be losing my fucking mind. If I was
Ricky Pearsall, the guy who got shot a month and a half ago.
Ricky Pearsall got shot, and he still played more football games than Joel Embiid has played basketball games this year. And he's also – being more active, and look, I'm not wishing this on anybody, but Tre'Davious Ward unfortunately had the untimely passing of his son, and he's still playing hard for this football team, and not what Devondre Campbell doing.
You could see that emotion on his face.
He's playing so fucking hard and playing so well. Could not believe
that Campbell was willing to do that. You know, give credit to the 49ers. I know that we said they're the softest team, but they've had guys that have done this. You know, they had Marquise Goodwin do that after his wife, they lost their baby. Trent Williams is trying to get back from an injury, and also, but they just had a stillborn baby, and that has to be even worse than losing a child after they're born because you never even get the ability to see them.
And we've said this over and over again. Life is so precious, and when you have guys relying on you and guys, and that just shows the character of Tre'Davious Ward and how strong and great of a man he is, and willing to put his life on the line and game on the line, every body on the line every single week, even though he's going through all these unfortunate circumstances where I hope he's able to heal from. But it's just one headache after another with this 49ers team. It's one headache after another. And I'll continue to say it. If the 49ers have a chance to go get an elite quarterback out there, they should not hesitate. I am continuing to say that like Brock Purdy is showing to me why he's a 7th round pick still. Like he is outperforming what a 7th round pick should do. There's zero denying that. He is outperforming what any 7th round pick quarterback outside of the obvious one exception, Tom Brady, has ever done, okay? And he is doing great things from that position, but he's also still proving to me why he was that low a draft pick. He proves to me why, obviously, he needed Breece Hall in college at Iowa State to be successful. Obviously, he needs Christian McCaffrey in the NFL to be successful. He is very, very good when he is not the focal point of the offense, and he can rely on a strong running game. And unfortunately, he can't. He doesn't have that right now, and that's why they're struggling. With all being said, I'm still picking the 49ers because I still need them to win somehow, and I'm hoping that the Dolphins can shoot themselves in the foot. So yeah.
And the end of that segment kind of roundabout to put us back talking about Find the Good Brand with all the tough things that we've been seeing the 49ers go through. If you feel like that's going with you, be sure to check out Find the Good Brand, findthegoodbrand.com, promo code BENCH, get 10% off at checkout. Those are our picks for week 16, and it's coming up a little bit earlier than normal because we have our bracket show dropping on Thursday. Let's get into our segments. Let's go play of the week first because I have those pulled up. I'll let you start because I was in attendance for yours, and it's been a long time since I've been in that stadium and heard the ground and felt the rumble of what's going on because it's set up. It's a long developing play, and you're like, okay, double pass, it's coming back. Oh, shit. All right, let's go. What do you got?
Nick Bonito pick 6. Look, Nick Bonito has 11.5 sacks on the year, 2 interceptions for a touchdown. The first person since who, Jimmy?
Von Miller.
J.J. Watt.
J.J. Watt, okay.
And the 4th person in NFL history to ever do that. The other 2 were DeMarcus Ware, and I forget who the other person was. It might have been J.J. Watt again, but it's happened 4 times in NFL history where an individual has 11.5 sacks and 2 receptions for touchdowns. Obviously, it's a fumble for whatever fucking reason. I hate that it is. Even though it's a double pass. I feel like he caught that bitch in the air. It's a fucking pass. I'm sorry. But he is, look, I don't think he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year award, but he absolutely deserves to be in the conversation. The other people on that list I named, 2 of the 4 have won Defensive Player of the Year. Yeah. 2 of the 4 of the names I just listed, J.J. Watt, both of those years, he had that statistic. 1 Defensive Player of the Year. DeMarcus Ware did in that 1 year when he was with the Cowboys. But 2 of the 4 have won Defensive Player of the Year. To say Nick Bonito and Casa Bonito is not in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation is ignorant and is frankly a flat-out lie. The man is playing otherworldly type football, and he is imposing teams quarterbacks, making life so difficult. And the fun thing about this Vance Joseph defense is you have to worry about him in the passing game. In the passing game, not only throwing, but in coverage, because he is a ball hawk. He's a ball hawk.
He's a lurker. He's the guy that you don't want to play against in Madden or college football because he's going to hang out on the defensive line, and then all of a sudden he's dropping back into your slant window, and you're like, "What the? You weren't there."
The play awareness of that play, like if you look at this, and I saw Dan Orlovsky go over this play more specifically, and if Anthony Richardson catches that ball, that's a touchdown. Yeah. Like if you see all the Broncos bodies that way, you see, I think it's like 9 or 10 hats on this side of the ball, and then you see Nick Bonito on the far side. You see the corner one-on-one coverage. So that means Anthony Richardson it has 1 block to beat and to walk into the end zone. That is the biggest heads-up play that I've seen from a Broncos defensive edge or outside linebacker since Von Miller strip sack Cam Newton in the Super Bowl. And I'm very confident saying that. And he is this next wave of great pass rushers and deserves all the credit in the world because, man, what a play that was. He's a once in a generation type of guy that we got in the 3rd round and finally getting his love and flowers. And, man, it's – Casa Bonito, look, it's one thing to be a great player. It's one thing to have all this cool thing. It's another thing to have a fucking sick-ass nickname. Like, I've said this enough. If you're a defensive player, you have to have a good nickname. I will harp on that. Like, if you don't have a good nickname, you're not if you're not a football player, a good football player without a good nickname, you're not worth shit. Okay, and Casa Bonito, with all of the fucking circumstances in Colorado in the restaurant, and if you don't know what we're talking about, go back and listen to last week's episode because we talked about it more in depth. But there's back-to-back games with pick sixes. Yeah. Not once, twice.
Both times that he's played most recently, he has a pick six as a linebacker that's paid to rush the passer.
Incredible. And I can't wait to see him get paid because, like I said, Broncos are building something defensively, and frankly, we have 2 guys in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. Like Pastor Tan, another pick on Sunday, another one. I think it's 5th or 6th of the year, by the way. I don't know why people keep throwing in his direction. But then Bonito does this, where he obviously has 11.5 sacks, obviously makes a play of the game. It was a 14-point swing. right?
Yeah.
14-point swing, 7 points the other direction from a team that's driving to they were down by 3. It was 17
we were
to
down
14
by
at
3
that
at
game.
that point.
No, we were up by 3.
Yeah.
The Colts were down by 3 at that point. Game turns from 17-17 tie, possibly a 21-17 lead for the Colts, to a 24-13 lead. And man, what a big play it was from Bonino. And like I said, I will continue harking on how great of a football player and how much fun he is. And like I said, if you don't know his name, start learning his name because he's that good.
I love the Bonito play. It was awesome. My play of the week, I'm going to go back to the game that we started things off with, Army-Navy. Eli Heidenreich. You ought to love that name. And you're going to love this play. He's listed. He's not a fullback. He's not a halfback. He is a slot back. He lines up in the backfield. He is if you're watching on YouTube right now, he is the low receiver closest to the camera. And we're going to watch him. This is the biggest, longest pass play that I think I've ever seen in this game. Here we go. Eli Heidenreich goes on the little out route, beats one guy down the sideline. Look at him move. Into the end zone. And that was kind of the icing on the cake. At that point, it was a 4-point game. They're going to see it again in slow motion. Huge moment for him in a primetime spot in an NFL stadium. Last time that he's probably going to be putting on this uniform as a Navy midshipman. And he has probably the play that puts the game out of reach because Army never even got close after that point. They scored 1 touchdown the entire game.
Number 22 ranked team in the country just got shellacked by their rival. And look, without talking about the service academies and all that, the number 22 ranked team doing that in any other sense of rivalry games, this is the national news. This we're talking about this constantly, and this game needs to be talked about more. And what a great performance it was for Navy win this game.
Well, it's surprising that you say we need to talk about it more because I'll just go right into my player of the week. Blake Horvath was not the marquee quarterback coming into this matchup. That was Bryson Daly of Army. Get this. He's the captain of Army football. He is the best player, leading guy on the entire roster. And his nickname is freaking Captain America. He's Captain America. And Blake Horvath came in as the Winter Soldier in that beautiful white uniform that Navy had, dropped 200 rushing yards on their head, dropped 100 passing yards on their head. We saw the 1 touchdown to Eli Heidenreich. He had another passing touchdown and 2 rushing touchdowns in the upset victory over number 22 Army.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. I went my player of the week based upon what's happened and why he deserves it. Travis Hunter took home the award for Walter Camp Award of the Year, goes to the Player of the Year. He won the next award that I have listed. He has the Blinokoff Award, Most Outstanding Receiver in the game of college football, and then he won the Bednarik Award winner. I'm sorry, I butchered the last name. Bednarik Award for the Defensive Player of the Year in college football, Travis Hunter. First person in college football history to be the best receiver in college football, and the best corner in college football.
Best defensive player. He did not win defensive back award. That's the Jim Thorpe. He was not a finalist.
Best
for the
defensive
Jim
player
Thorpe,
of the year,
yes.
and the best receiver and best player of the year too, because it was the Walter Camp Award. Then obviously the trophy everyone cares about, Heisman Trophy winner.
I only say that because it's ridiculous that he was not listed as a finalist and win the Jim Thorpe Award. He's the best defensive back.
They didn't want to give him everything, I guess. It makes serious sense. But Travis Hunter is a one-of-one type player, and like I said, look. We started the show 4 years ago. If you told me that we'd have an NBA MVP, an NHL MVP, a Heisman Trophy winner, all in the same year, I'd be like, "Do we move to Florida? Do we move to California? Like
we're in New York, right?
We're in New York.
We made it big, and we're in Barstow, New York. That's what we're doing.
What happened? What happened? And look. We talked about McKinnon and Jokic being the first player, NHL player and NBA player in tandem since Gretzky and Magic Johnson to win the MVP in the same year. No one has had both MVPs and the Heisman Trophy winner in the same fucking state. It's God, it's so fucking fun to be a Colorado sports fan. It's so fucking fun. Even if you're a CSU Ram alumni or frankly don't have any ties to CU, you have to love what Travis Hunter, Deion Sanders, and company are doing at CU and putting the national focus on Colorado sports because
It's bleeding into everything too, because D2 playoffs, both teams in the top two seeds in our region were Western Colorado and CSU Pueblo. So not only people are seeing Colorado and spreading it across the entire state, it's a beautiful state.
We are not a flyover state anymore. We are a football, basketball, hockey. We are a sports state, and we are one to be a force awakened with. And it is such wonderful seeing that, because obviously, like you look at the greats of that have lived here or grew up here, went to high school here, played college here, went to the next level. Chauncey Billups comes to mind. Christian McCaffrey comes to mind. You can throw Travis Hunter in that conversation now of guys who played here and went on to do big things. That we are seeing elite level of competition. For a long time there, it was basically just Winter Olympic athletes. I love the Olympics as much as anybody.
Lindsey Vonn.
I love the Winter Olympics as much as anybody, but now those athletes are turning into football, turning into basketball, turning into hockey, and it's so damn great for the state of Colorado. So I have to give our state our love, because representing the 303, Travis Hunter, Nikola Jokic, Nathan McKinnon have done an excellent job at that.
All right, let's wrap things up. Let's talk about the worst of the weekend. I'll let you go first, because
I'm not going to be a dead horse.
Just talking about it.
I'm not going to be a dead horse. Devontae Campbell, I hope that everything in your personal life figures itself out, and then that you're able to move past this. He was handed down a 3-game suspension by the 49ers, and what I was told is John Lynch specifically spoke to the NFL and said that I don't want to release him. Like, I need a harder punishment, because releasing him just allows him to go to another team. And a guy quitting on a team like that deserves the worst punishment. And having him suspended and is what happened. So, look, I hope that everything is handled correctly. Devontae Campbell, he's able to figure it out. He's able to get over whatever he's going through, because obviously no sane person in the NFL would ever fucking do that. And like I say, let me emphasize this. Sane person, because the last person to do that was Antonio Brown that did this exact same thing. Sane person to do this. So I hope he's able to overcome all this. But man, you are absolutely benchwarmer of the week for leaving your team high and dry like that.
It was the weirdest situation. I never thought that I'd see it. I never thought that I'd see it with Antonio Brown.
It's happened twice since our show.
I know. I never thought that I'd see it with Antonio Brown, yet I'm seeing it twice. And in this situation,
and rest in peace, Devontae Davis. But what year was that? Because he also retired at halftime. I think it was 2019, 2018.
Yeah, 2019.
Somewhere around there, wherever it was. Unfortunately, he's passed away.
It's tough because these people are human beings. So you never want to say that they're, it's tough, because in this situation, you are living out every man's dream. Every person watching this game that saw you walk off the field would love to be in your situation playing football for millions and millions of dollars. For the San Francisco 49ers of all teams. And you're going to walk off out of that franchise, out of that locker room right now, when you got guys that are holding themselves together with duct tape and rubber bands, guys that are getting shot, guys that are losing children this season, and you're just not willing to play because they brought you in as a backup to Dre Greenlaw, who tore his Achilles, and now he's back ready to play. So we don't need you.
Of your team,
we don't need you anymore. So now you're pissed off. We didn't need you. We signed your ass off the couch. There was a reason.
You could have still been sitting on the couch. You could have been still on the couch if it weren't for us giving you an opportunity anymore. And like I said, this is his last opportunity. He's not talented.
You're blackballed. Enjoy the USFL.
He's not talented enough to get another position after this, unless he somehow figures his way back into good graces of the 49ers. This will be his last hop, and he can go join Vince McMahon in the XFL.
Yeah, no, I think that's where he's going. He's got a spring football career ahead of him. Jonathan Taylor. Terrell brought up an interesting point. I don't know if you saw this yesterday. He said that Jonathan Taylor must still be injured or banged up, but he feels like he needs to play. I don't know if that injury led to the Leon Lett situation that happened on the goal line. No, let me get my dig at Cowboys Nation. The Leon Lett situation that Jonathan Taylor left at the goal line on a 40-yard possible touchdown run. But I can't believe that happened.
He ran 40 yards for a touchdown this run. I don't think he's injured. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. He's not.
He broke a few tackles on the run too.
Maybe he was winded, like his quarterback gets winded, and maybe that's why. And he just brain dead. That could be why. I don't know. He's not injured. I saw him healthy as can be, walking on the sideline, running around. That is not an injured man. If you break a 50-yard run nearly, that's not an injury that you just dropped the ball. Like that, literally. I'm not calling Terrell dumb here, but that's not a good take. Is all I'm going to say. Like there is something mentally wrong with somebody. You and I, you touched the ball every play because you were a center, but like I barely got to ever touch the ball as a fullback. If I ever had a chance with the football, that some bitch was 2 hands on the ball, and I'm running through the back of that fucking end zone if I ever got it. Okay, that thing was never coming out of my fucking hands because at high school level, that shit is not going nowhere. Okay, I am making sure I run that bitch all the way in the end zone.
High and tight, eagle claw. High and tight, eagle claw.
It's. I don't know. It's.
I still teach my 7th graders that. That was our old saying.
It's blasphemous. It's blasphemous that you think that the year 2024 this is still happening. And it happened twice in the same day. Like the only reason why the Bengals guy dropping the ball in the end zone after the fumble recovery.
They won, baby.
No one talking about because they won and no one gave a fuck. Okay.
They also had a Leon Lett situation in the Cowboys game last weekend with that punt.
This play is not only season altering, it's career altering. It's organization altering. Like if you look at the percentages of the Colts and Broncos, if the Colts won that game, the Colts percentage of making playoffs at the game was like 75%. Broncos was about below 50. The game was about to be 27, and obviously the Broncos rattled off 24 points, but that was such a big momentum boost. Like it's such a bonehead mistake that Chris Ballard could get fired from this, right? Chris Ballard could get fired from this if they don't make the playoffs. Shane Steichen may not get another, may be on the hot seat next year, may not be able to get another job because of this. Jonathan Taylor is going to now be seen as a guy who fumbles. Anthony Richardson cannot win the big game. This is
40% completion percentage, 2 interceptions, 1 touchdown.
This is a domino effect to a franchise that is still struggling to find their footing after Peyton Manning retired, and they did for a little bit with Andrew Luck, and then Andrew Luck.
And then he retired mid-game.
Then he retired mid-game. Like, man, and look, I like Jonathan Taylor. I think he's a good running back. I think he runs hard. I think he's done good things when he's had the ball. You can't have that. And this is a guy that, by the way, let's not forget, asked to be traded and asked to go somewhere else for a while because of how bad.
And then got a large contract
extension. And now that's the backbone of your team. And your team is obviously unravels for 24 straight points in the other direction. You lose a game, but you also lose a chance at postseason play. That's a like I said, it's a season long. It's an organizational failure. And it's an organizational future problem.
Thanks, Darren. Sorry you had to watch the Raiders tonight. That was just difficult. I think that's.
Can you win? Can you win? I want Shador in New York, please.
He doesn't want to win. He doesn't want to win. You're asking the wrong person.
Cam Ward would look great in silver and black. He would look great. Put him in the number 2 jersey, and it'd be Jamarcus Russell 2.0. Let Shador go to New York with Malik Neighbors.
The gloves are still off. There is no love lost between AFC West rivals. We're going to wrap things up. Big shout out to Darren, Fatboy Fadeaway, also host of Talking the Gridiron and 7th Inning Stretch here on Variety Sports Network. If you were watching us and you did not watch College Football Showdown, that was also live at the same time. Big shout out. We had 112 people live today. Outer Rhythm Fantasy, thank you for jumping in the comments. Remember, you are free to leave negative comments as long as you like, subscribe, share the video with another person. I've been going at it. I'll send you kissy faces in the comments, even if it's something that you say mean about me. Doesn't really bother me. All that good stuff. Be sure to follow.
And next week's show, and obviously Thursday's show is going to be very, very big for us. And next week we'll update everyone. I know, and we'll update everyone next week on what our plans for. It's Christmas time, best time of the year. We'll be more transparent with that Thursday once we figure all that out. But it's a big show Thursday. It's a big show, and I guarantee you we will not go 4 hours.
No, it's not. It's not. And I have the crown. I've been looking at the crown all year, and Nico somehow got the crown last year. And I'm hoping, I'm doing my damnedest. He may beat me in the NFL pick'em, but I'm going to win. Like he said, I've been watching college football nonstop for the last 45, 50 days because it's been on every single day of the week, and I love it. And I'm so excited for it. And now I get even more. I just wish that everything else worked differently in the calendar. But hey, if you missed anything, go back, check it live, or you go back, watch the replay on our YouTube channel, listen to the audio version of the podcast, check out the clips that are coming out. We'll have videos pretty much all week throughout the rest of the time. I'll be on Ohio Sports Talk probably tomorrow or Wednesday. We'll be back Thursday, talking Gridiron Sunday, content. Enjoy the holidays, teachers. We made it to Christmas break. I appreciate you. Everybody appreciates you. For myself, Jimmy Pallotto, my co-host Nico Bryan, episode 211 of the Far End of the Bench podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you guys next week.
Peace.
If you don't stay down and you never quit, come on over here and sit on the far end of the bench.